Out of the 19,000 Terminators built in 2003 and 2004, only 29 of them were Saleen cars. These cars are named the S281C. I believe the C stands for Cobra. Not to be confused with the S281SC, which is supercharged, and that would be your average GT Mustang that was turned into a Saleen, and the S281 part of it, which would have the supercharger. Now, out of all of these S281C cars built by Saleen, only one of them was competition orange. And only one of them was a hardtop competition orange. They made no convertibles in competition orange for the Saleens, for the Cobras. And this is the only car produced in that color. So this is a one-of-one car. This car now sits with about 1,700 miles on it. It's in the hands of a collector. And this collector, I believe, is the second owner of the car. Now, here are some pictures of the car at the Carlisle show, and that is probably one of the very few places that this car goes. I'm sure it sits most of its life. I thought it would be neat to look at some of these pictures. There are very few pictures of this car, and if you look closely, you'll notice quite a few differences about this car. This car is number 9 out of the ones built, and if you look at the back of it, you'll notice the car does not have a Terminator spoiler on it anymore. It has the Saleen S281 spoiler on it. The rear bumper is the Saleen. Obviously, all these things are going to be Saleen parts that have been added to the car. The wheels there you can see are the Saleen wheels. There is no more SVT badge on the back of the car. And the C-pillars, which is the area by the back window, have the Saleen changes to them. Interestingly, the door pulls are orange on the car. I find that interesting that they would do that. And if you look closely on the inside of the door panel, you will see that the Saleen logo is there with the 281. I find that interesting. Now, this is all Saleen stuff that I'm sure a lot of people already know about. As far as the engine goes, I find it very interesting that Saleen decided to leave it alone. They left the car all stock. The only thing done to the S281C Cobras are suspension and appearance items. So this is the stock Terminator engine, and if you think about it, the S281s are based off the GTs, the supercharged ones of this year, and they have a little supercharger on them if they're the supercharged ones, and they don't make huge horsepower numbers. They're well below what the Cobra is capable of, and so I can see them taking the Cobra and saying, well, it's already meeting the standards of horsepower for us, but they wanted to improve on suspension and appearance. So those are the things that Saleen changed. Now, something I find very interesting, we already talked about the door pulls and the Saleen writing on the door panels, but Saleen chose to keep the Terminator's original seats in the car. I think that's really neat. I think they're great seats as they are, and they probably thought the same thing. They probably thought they didn't need to change them up very much. GT seats, they don't have as much bolster, they're not as supportive, all that, they're not as adjustable, but the Cobra does have very nice seats in it, so Saleen did choose to leave the seats in there. Something else very interesting about this car and all the Saleen Cobras that they made was they kept the original hood. I like the Terminator hood. I think it's great. It's developed for the car. The heat extractors pull hot air out of the engine bay. You know, it's engineered for it and everything, so I can see the reason why they would have left it there. But the Saleen hood is rather similar on the other cars, but they did keep the Terminator hood. They didn't keep the bumpers, they didn't keep the side skirts. Another thing they did keep was the Cobra badges on the side instead of the Saleen badges that would be on the other cars. So I had seen sales posts for this car. They were saying the only one made was for sale, and the owner was asking $55,000 for the car. Now, some might think that's a little high of a price. I don't know whether he got that or not out of the car, but according to the window stickers that I could find of the normal S281 SC or the E model, whatever they are, it looked like they sold for about $63,000. That would be the 2-valve version of this car. So the Cobra, I would imagine, would be even more than that. So it was probably a very expensive car to begin with, and I don't know what it sold for, but A lot of people say this is going to be one of the most expensive cars out there. Now, a very important question is, how rare is this car being a one-of-one car? Now the answer to that is yes, of course it's going to be rare, and yes, of course it's going to be collectible, but the truth is, if they only made 29 Terminator Saleen cars, then a lot of them would be in the same category. In 2003, they made 2 red fire coupes, 2 black coupes, 1 white coupe, so there's another one-of-one car. They made 1 rainbow, which would be another one-of-one car. And as far as the convertibles went, they made 1 satin silver, and satin silver is the rarest of all the Terminators made. So there's 1 satin silver Saleen car, so that would be pretty rare. 1 sonic blue, 1 black, 1 zinc yellow, 1 lipstick, and then as far as the 04s go, they made 1 red fire, and it was Canadian built for Canada, so that's very rare, and that's a one-of-one car. They made 3 black, they made 2 Mistochromes, 1 more white, and 1 competition orange, which is the one we're talking about. 1 screaming yellow, which was a Canadian built car. 3 screaming yellow convertibles, which would be the most of one color that they made. And interestingly, that there's 3 convertibles of that color, not coupes. 2 black, 1 white, 1 torch red, 1 silver, and 1 Mistochrome. And now this convertible Mistochrome Cobra is quite special because, as a lot of you might know, this was Paul Walker's personal car. You know, Paul Walker from the Fast and the Furious franchise movies. This was his car. He had the only convertible Mistochrome Saleen Terminator. So there are quite a bit of one-off cars in that lineup. Now, from what I understand, they made 6 competition orange Saleens in 2004, and sometimes it's a little bit difficult to tell the difference between these cars. Now, this right here is not the Cobra one, this is the S281, and if you look at the car, there are a couple things that will throw this off from the Terminator. The first being the hood. It may be a little difficult to see in this picture, but it has a Terminator style hood that has vents on it, but it is not the Terminator hood. So that is how you can tell it is not the Terminator car, because the Terminators came with the Terminator hood. And of course anybody could change this and add one, but this is one of the things. And the second biggest giveaway, in my opinion, are the mirrors. Those would be the standard black plastic mirrors that come on all the other Mustangs, the V6, GT, Bullet, Mach 1, all the other ones, the earlier Cobras. And so that is how you can tell. Let's look back at the competition orange Terminator Saleen. There you can see it has the folding export mirrors, the ones that came on all the Terminator Cobras. And yes, this is something that could be added to any of the other Saleens and could falsify it as being one of the Cobras. The drivetrain as well. Anybody could change anything on these cars, but just one of the few things to tell the cars apart. And you can look at the spoiler on the back. It looks different than the ones that I've seen. This is the spoiler that's on the car that we're talking about, how it has the side molding pieces that come down the quarter panels, and then the back part, which is very, very popular. And compared to the pictures I've seen of the other Saleens, this is what the other cars look like. I noticed as well that the exhaust is in the center of these other Saleens, and I don't know if that's a difference in the different packages of the Saleens. I am not a Saleen enthusiast. There are a lot of people out there who absolutely love these cars, and they could talk way more about them than I can. They know all the differences. But my personal opinion is I like the car the way it was before. I don't think that they should have changed it. I don't think they should have made a Saleen out of a Terminator. Now that's definitely a personal preference. A lot of people will be upset hearing that. But I love the Terminator so much, and I think it should have stayed original, especially a rare one of 281 coupes that were made in this color. I would definitely not have done that to this car. They can do it to all the GTs they want or whatever, but I think the Terminator should have stayed the way it was. Now, a lot of people will disagree with me, and they'll say this car is going to be worth a whole lot because it's a one-of-one car and it's the Terminator Saleen. And so, obviously, the people who are way into collectability and want to spend a lot of money are going to look at these cars as something really cool like that. But anyway, this is just a little bit of information on the one-of-one 281 Saleen car. Not to be confused with the other ones. And I have a couple other pictures here that we'll look at here now at the end as we finish up the video. This is another example of a competition orange, supposedly, if this is the real car or not. But anyway, if you know more about this car, I know that it started on the East Coast somewhere. I believe it has 2 owners. It has 16 to 1700 miles on it. But if you know more about the car, put it in the comments and let me know. Tell me what your thoughts are on the Saleen. Do you like what they did? Do you like the appearance? To me, I think the rear spoiler is about the only thing I really like on the Saleens. And if I were to add any Saleen parts to any Mustang, I would possibly put the rear S281 wing on a GT or something like that, but never on a Terminator. So let me know what you think. Do you like the parts? Do you like the bumpers? Because to me, I just don't really like them. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and make sure to subscribe to the channel.